I'm really pleased to be here for a great panel to discuss the important issue of preparing students for Industry 4.0. Joining me today is Atul Chauhan, Chancellor of Amity University and President of the Amity Foundation. He's also a former host partner of Times Higher Education's India University Summit. We also have Raghav Gupta, Managing Director, India and APAC at Coursera, and M. Sri Bhatt, President of the Gandhi Institute of Technology and Management. So around the globe, ensuring that students are prepared for the modern world is a particularly pressing issue, and no more so than in India, where the workforce is set to become the world's largest by 2027. So I'm looking forward to hearing from the panel about how universities can ensure that those students are ready to tackle the world of automation and an ever-changing job market. That brings me to my first question, which is the future about blended learning? And how can that ensure that children are a future-ready workforce? Atul, I'll come to you first on that one, if that's all right.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, let me congratulate Times Higher Education for their second India Universities Forum. As you mentioned, at Amity University, we were very proud and honored to partner for the first summit, which happened last year. And I convey my wishes to Phil and all the colleagues with whom we had an amazing time last year discoursing on various aspects important for our country. Now, this topic is very, very important, preparing students for Industry 4.0. And it is a big responsibility for all academicians to equip students for the future by training them today. And this is something that we at Amity University took very seriously many years ago, where we set up a whole division for what we called Education 4.0. We have a head of Education 4.0 and competency-based learning, whose main focus is to see how to adapt the education that we provide to cater for the industry of the future. And all of us know there have been many reports. One McKinsey report said that due to the fourth industrial revolution, 60% of all occupations will have a third of their activities automated. Also, a vast majority of job profiles which exist currently will not exist in the future. So we have to really look forward to the future and train and give the skill sets to the students who are studying with us at the moment for working in the future. And at our university and across universities, we have universities across the world, we look at multiple aspects, but I will just list a few important ones which the World Economic Forum has also sort of stressed on. Of course, the technology skills are there. I will list 4 skill sets which students need for the future. Technology skills, of course, is very, very important with Industry 4.0, with artificial intelligence, big data. But that is already happening all over the world. Even at the school level, we are seeing virtually every child in school is learning coding. At university also, at least with us, and I'm sure across all good universities, across all domains, aspects of artificial intelligence and robotics and automation have been infused into the curriculum. But what is more important than that, I feel, is what is called global citizen skills. Because what will happen in the future is that workplaces will be more interconnected, employees will have more global peers. So they really need to learn the global nuances of how to work at a truly global level. And the third is innovation and creativity skills. I think most important for the industry for the future are, students need to have the skills of complex problem solving, of analytical thinking. And the fourth one, which I feel is the most important and where the aspect of universities comes in, is really interpersonal skills. We have to educate students to be resilient, to be emotionally intelligent, to have empathy, and to create a sort of environment where they are happy and the well-being is there. So blended learning comes in multiple ways. I think during this pandemic, we have learned where all of us had to go online. I think initially everyone was euphoric that everything can be done online, but this aspect of interpersonal skills, of working together in teams, collaborative learning is really something which cannot be replicated, what happens on campus. So in the future, I would say blended learning is very important. I think it cannot be the only way of learning, the online aspects. So universities will really develop, and we have done a lot of work, but I will leave it at this and come back and give my points, Anna.
Great. Yes, we'll definitely come back and pick up on some of those points. Raghav, would you like to jump in here now? Thanks.
Absolutely, Anna. And again, if I freeze because of my internet, please just move on to the next speaker. I would echo a lot of what Dr. Atul said, right? At Coursera, we have the opportunity to work with many companies and many universities. And as I look through what we've seen over the last 1 year or so, the World Economic Forum talks about the double disruption that industry is going through, right? There are lesser jobs that are available, skills in those jobs are changing. Many of us, even post-COVID, will continue to work from home, and almost every business is going digital. So this double disruption is happening because automation was already there, and COVID-19 has accelerated many points related to automation. The other thing which is interesting, and I was looking at some data on our platform, that amongst working professionals who come to Coursera, what are the top 10 skills that they were learning in 2019, and how did those change in 2020? And I'm looking at the list right now. And the number one skill that people learned on our platform, working professionals, not students in colleges, but working professionals, was Python. The second was neural networks. The third was algorithms, and so on. And then there was business strategy, there was supply chain. And among softer skills, there was learning how to learn, and there was writing. But what we saw in 2019 is working professionals were building a lot of digital and database skills. But in 2020, the number one skill that working professionals learned on the Coursera platform was communication. The second skill that they learned on our platform was business strategy, especially during turbulent times. The third skill, which used to be number one earlier, which was Python, became number three. But number 4, 5, 6 are interesting because these are mindfulness, meditation, and gratitude. And the shift tells us, and organizations like the World Economic Forum and McKinsey talk about this as well, that for industry professionals, for those of us who are working professionals, the future is a combination of skills that are digital, but also human. And I think the challenge for higher education is that how do you not only bring functional skills to students, but also bring some of these human skills to students as well. And I know Dr. Atul spoke about this as well. And given some of this context, in our work with many campuses, many universities around the world, some of the challenges that we are seeing are around student employability. How does one get ready for this new future? And how do you rapidly change what's happening on campus? Coupled with this quite closely is faculty development, because till faculty development happens, this knowledge, this development cannot go to students. And then I think many parents, many students are also looking for universities who are more innovative, who are building this ability to transfer knowledge around skills of the future to their students. And if I were to pick an example of one particular discipline, which is, the MBA, and when I went to do my MBA many years ago, doing a general management MBA was perfectly fine. But today, if my son were to go and do an MBA, I would not ask him to do a general management MBA because of all that is changing around us, right? So we're finding that the new career paths for management students, for MBA students, are topics like fintech, right? An MBA with specialization in fintech, or an MBA with specialization in data analytics, or an MBA with specialization in artificial intelligence and machine learning, because you might be running a business which specializes in those domains. And to be able to do this, what universities have done, which traditionally has never been done, right? In the past, as a student, I learned what my faculty in the university taught me. At best, I had visiting faculty. But today we have seen the role of cross-university knowledge sharing kicking in as well as a result of platforms like Coursera, right? I could be a student at MIT, I could be a student at GITM, but I could also be learning from Stanford, I could also be learning from Princeton while I'm studying on campus. And that is an element of blended learning, which I think we will possibly see going forward as well. So those are possibly some opening kind of thoughts, but I'll hand it back to you with that.
Right, that's really helpful, and it's really good to get the perspective from Coursera as well. And Bharat, shall we come to you? And it'd be great to get your thoughts.
Sure. So I think Dr. Atul and Raghav have raised a lot of points that I would have. So let me just get into some challenges that we've seen this year, and how do we deal with that? So if you look at the blended learning, the way we've been doing it in terms of online learning, the challenge comes with assessment and evaluation, because we actually partnered with Coursera. We rolled out a lot of Coursera courses, and we see a proliferation in cheating, in manipulation of results. So a lot of our faculty and leaders are pushing for offline assessments to come back in. And COVID has not been very helpful to that. And the other also is a point mentioned earlier about faculty development. If you look at the areas that are growing really quickly, there is a severe dearth of expertise in academia, whether it be overall the computer science and IT ecosystem. So developing people would be hard. And I think the Indian ecosystem, Indian regulatory environment has not been built with this kind of agility in mind. So in today's rapidly changing environment, I think that would be a limitation. So for me to get a qualified faculty member in computer science, having done a PhD and having awareness about the latest trends, the intersection of that is extremely low. So I would need to bring in a lot more practitioners, a lot more younger people who are actually writing code to come back and teach. But structurally, we're not enabled to do that in Indian academic environments. They wouldn't even be recognized as faculty members. And for us, for institutions like us who are also chasing excellence, chasing rankings, when you can't count those people as faculty members, then it's a double cost for you. You have to have faculty members who you pay just for their statutory requirements, but you also have to have people who come and teach students, who upgrade curriculum, who devise the courses of the future. And I think the last point that I would speak about, and if you look at the challenges with this, is sort of the engagement and motivation. With tools like Coursera, with the online learning, the students who are motivated, who want to learn flexibly, they make the most use of this. And I think those are the outliers who are being enabled today. And I think they would have greater outcomes than they were having in a physical ecosystem. And blended learning is really enabling them. But a large majority of students who either aren't motivated, don't have access to good devices, are in areas where internet isn't great, or live in homes where it's an environment where there's constant disruption, we're seeing the motivation levels drop off really steeply. And then how do you then engage these students, right? So we have 10-20% of the students who are making use of blended learning and making the most of it. But what about the remaining 80%? And whether it be Amity or Geetam, we are relatively expensive in the Indian ecosystem, and we attract students who can afford devices, who can afford this kind of education. 80-90% of the country cannot. And then what happens to them? So these are very real challenges. And I think that conceptually, many things sound good, but when it comes to implementation, understanding the challenges in local environments, a lot more work has to happen. And I would say that enabling institutions that want to solve these problems would be what the government should do. And that would make us a lot more ambitious in going out and solving those problems, because it's not about giving students a degree. I think something that Dr. Atul said about being resilient, that's extremely important, and also about making students learners. It's not about the knowledge that we give them in their 2, 3, or 4 years with us, but it's how rapidly knowledge is transforming every year. And inculcating the attitude that it doesn't matter what you've learned here today, but it's that every year, every day, you have to keep learning. And so learning how to learn is something that we need to inculcate in them. The soft skills in terms of communication, confidence, those are the things that are what will make them more resilient and sort of survive across changes in the larger ecosystem.
Great. That's so helpful to sort of bring up some of those challenges, because how, as you say, how can you move forward unless you know what those challenges are to address? So I wondered, Atul, were some of those challenges ones that you recognise? Are there other ones? How might you go about addressing some of these challenges, or how are you going about doing that?
See, Anna, what is the biggest learning that we have got out of being forced to go fully online? And I think one of the biggest benefits that we will see in the change that will happen in the academic and education system is a focused on personalized education for students. Traditionally, universities have teachers go into the classroom and teach everyone the same. With blended learning, with having courses online where students can learn on a self-paced methodology, where the evaluation can measure the learning of the students, we are able to really offer personalized education to a student. And that is most important. Another big benefit of the availability of content. And the issue is, in this world, content is free. So anyone making a business model or working in this field has to realize that content will be available freely to everyone. It is how you really utilize that content to build the skill set in students. And that is where the big role of universities comes. And as my colleagues have said, lifelong learning is really where it will really play a big part. Traditionally in education, we have focused on loading people upfront in their life with education, and the level of education decreases with age. But now in this age where job profiles are changing so much, new technology is coming, there is a need for people in the industry to continuously upgrade themselves. And that is where a big benefit organizations like Coursera are giving to the population. And I think universities have also understood this and are incorporating lifelong learning for alumni. It is not just once you are a student for 3 years or 4 years of a university, but now you can be a student, a part of the university for life, because everyone realizes that skills have to be developed continuously.
Great, thank you. That's brilliant. I think it's a great time to bring in Raghav and how Coursera fits into this. And also, I wondered if you noticed any particular challenges arising from COVID, and how Coursera might fit into some of those. Yeah,
and I'd love to build on the points that Dr. Atul and Bharat shared as well, along with answer your question, Anna. I think to the point around personalization of education, we are seeing that
unfortunately, Raghav has some internet issues, but I think he's back now.
Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah,
apologies.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So I was saying, informally at Coursera, we call it the house of content, which has a few key pillars to it, right? So if you're a student who's studying a particular discipline, you're possibly learning that discipline, in your campus, whether you're an engineering student, a business student, a law student. But we find that given how industry is changing, almost everybody needs to learn some form of emerging technologies. And as an example, we work with Symbiosis Law College, and lawyers are learning cybersecurity because eventually you will have to work with law in cybersecurity. So, emerging technologies across different disciplines. The second aspect is multidisciplinary, and Dr. Atul and Bharat both spoke about this as well. The new education policy in India encourages a lot more multidisciplinary learning. So how do you bring that into the student learning experience? And then finally, on top of all of this is career skills or human skills, right? At Coursera, I lead a team which is located all around the world in 6 different time zones. And so how do you lead without authority? How do you lead across different cultures, right? What are some of these soft human skills that all of us now need to build that we're working online? And then finally, not just learning online, but how do you take that into hands-on as well, right? So if you're learning cybersecurity as a concept, how do you also actually practice that in a virtual environment? So we're finding that personalization of education is definitely key. And this house of content concept that I spoke about is one way to kind of put a framework around it. The other element of all of this is regulation, and Bharat talked about it a little bit. And in India, we've seen, some of the regulators allow more usage of online content, and a lot has changed because of the national education policy that has come up. And sitting in the country, I've also always felt that regulation should keep up a lot more with what we are seeing in terms of needs of the higher education institution. But I've also had a chance to look at how regulation has been in other countries around the world, parts of Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and so on. And at least I've been comforted by the fact that Indian regulation is possibly ahead of what I've seen in many other countries. So there's clearly a lot that needs to be done, but I think there's good momentum behind that. And then one last point I would mention, Anna, is we've seen that universities need to think a little bit like businesses that are going digital as well, when they start thinking about embedding online and technology capabilities into the fabric of the institution, right? Because teachers teaching online during COVID is possibly going to go away, but some element of online async learning will stay even in the future. And I know Bharat has done this at Geetam, either brought in a chief innovation officer, or I've seen universities bring in a chief digital officer, who are the subject matter experts to be able to work with academic leadership to drive some of these initiatives. And I think that's an element that we've seen some of the universities that have taken a good lead during the COVID time while moving online do as well.
Great, thank you so much. One question that I have, we've talked a lot about preparing students for industry and the skills that they need. I wonder how do universities ensure that they know what those skills that industry need are, where things are changing so much, as you've seen in the past year? How do universities sort of build relationships with industry so that they're as up to date as possible? Bharat, do you want to start with that?
That's an easy answer, Anna. We have Raghav here, and Raghav is the interface for us. I don't think we need to break our head to find the answer. Coursera is already working with, hundreds or maybe close to 1,000 organizations around the world, and they're seeing how the skills are changing, what skills are needed. And they're also working with universities around the world that have been creating new courses. So amongst others, I think it would be to work with organizations like Coursera, who are in touch with multiple stakeholders and who bring that information to us. And given that we have a long-term partnership with Coursera, it makes it easy for us to sort of learn from them and direct the students. And now that we've given access to our students, all of our students at Geetam have a Coursera license, and they can go onto the platform. They can see the most popular courses overall and also within their particular domain. And we're also tailor-making things, saying that what are soft skills, what are sort of domain-specific skills, and what are general electives that we would like students to get exposed to. And we're curating that experience through the Coursera for Campus platform. And I think that's what is giving students the opportunity to see how things are changing. And beyond that, I think, everyone has said, I think the internet has really liberated everything, right? So all you need to do is go and ask Google, what should I learn? And Google will tell you. And then you just come back saying that, okay, where do I learn it? Yeah.
I like how Bharat simplified it and said, Raghav is here. But at some stage, I'd love to share a little bit of under the hood, what enables this to happen as well. And I know Dr. Atul has a point, but happy to come in after that.
Perfect. Yes, Atul, do you want to go ahead with that?
I think you raised a very important question of how to really understand what the industry requires, and that is something we have really focused on, because when we started our academic institutions about 25 years ago, we saw that there are armies of unemployable graduates coming out of universities. And the biggest complaint that industry had was that we are having to spend substantial time and resources retraining graduates coming out of our industry. And that is when we really worked on hand in hand with the industry to understand what they need. And from that, what we have developed is what I call industry-led institutions. That is where the industry comes and partners and sets up institutions within universities. I'll just give you two examples of what we have set up. Tata Technologies is the arm of the Tata Group, which designs the automobile engines for the Tata cars, and for Jaguar Land Rover. They work with Rolls-Royce for aeroplane engines. So together with them, we set up a co-branded Institute of Technology on our campus to teach engineering courses in aerospace, in automobile engineering, where 50% of the faculty is ours. 50% of the faculty comes from the factories of the Tata Group, and they teach exactly what the industry needs. The second aspect, partnership we have, is with the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors from the United Kingdom, which is the largest association in the field of built environment and real estate, where we have the RICS School of Built Environment at the Amit University campus, where they bring in all the practitioners from the industry to teach the students. So we have felt that universities need to understand that they have a big responsibility to give skills to students which are actually needed by the industry. And for that, you have to bring industry onto the campus to help you to teach. And this model has worked so well. We have many, many such models, and where all the students get picked up by the industry much before they graduate, because they actually have the skill sets that the industry requires.
Great, that's brilliant. Raghav, did you want to sort of give us some insights into how Coursera builds those industry partnerships that are so useful?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it used to be a situation maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, but this, what does industry need, used to be a little bit of a black clear what industry wanted for academia in general. And I don't know if many people know this, but platforms like Coursera was mainly industry, And are you able to hear me? Apologies.
Yes, it went a bit funny just for a little bit, but I think you're back. So do you want to carry on, and hopefully we can hear you properly?
Yeah, sorry. So I was saying that, for many years, platforms like Coursera were only used by working professionals. So we've always known what industry wants. Academia has started using platforms like Coursera only over the last 3 years. And what we do is 3 things, right? We look at data. There are millions of people, thousands of companies learning on the Coursera platform. Many of them are building cutting edge skills. And so across 10, 15 different industries, we have a point of view on what are the skills of the future. The second thing is we go out and partner with industry and get them to create content. So today there are 60 companies who create content which is available on the Coursera platform. Technology companies like Google and IBM and so on, but also people who teach you sales skills, because Salesforce teaches you sales skills and Facebook teaches you digital marketing. So very specialized companies who teach those topics. And then the third thing that we do, which I don't think we've done enough of, but I think we should be doing more of, is take this and say, if you've taken X certificate from an industry partner, then there are going to be 20, 30, 50 companies who will interview as well, because you have demonstrated that you have those industry skills available. There is a report called the Global Skills Index, which I refer to quite a lot. which we, last year was the second edition of this report, which says across 10 countries, across 10 industries and 60 different countries, what are the skills that industry is focusing on. So it's not a black box anymore. There's very data-driven insights which are available there.
Great, thank you. That's so helpful to hear. We've got some questions from the audience that I'd like to put to you guys. The first one, I think it's a really interesting one, which is, after experiencing the pandemic, I believe leadership in crisis is a key skill that every student should learn to become future global leaders. I wish to know the insights from the panel of speakers. How can this be developed among the student community? Atul, would you like to take that?
I think leadership and compassion are two integral skills that every student needs to learn, and really a great focus for any university. And this is where my point comes, that these are skill sets which are very, very difficult to teach online. You cannot just preach that this is how leadership happens. And where I have a strong belief that, there's the debate always there, that will bricks and mortars university survive when online education is there? My strong feeling is that skill sets like leadership, like teamwork, like collaboration can only be learned by actually doing it, by project-based learning, collaborative learning. And that's where universities will have a big role to play, because in the future, as artificial intelligence increases, as robotics, machines increase, they will take over a lot of the task of knowledge. It is the knowledge that a computer can store is maybe far, far higher than what that human beings can do. But so it is very important for us as universities and academicians to make our students emotionally stable, have those leadership skills, have those collaborative skills, that they are able to manage the machines of the future. So that should be the role that we as universities focus on for the future.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. Bharat, did you have any thoughts on sort of leadership skills and how we get students to really learn them?
Yes. There's a lot of thoughts. I think the first thing would be in order to inculcate certain values and leadership capabilities, I think it's what kind of an organization do you build, and do you actually practice those values? And when I think academia, if you look at it largely, academic leaders are rewarded for excellence or depth in one particular subject area as researchers. And when they transition to a leadership role, they have to become generalists. And not all of them make that transition well. Very few of them do, actually. And the challenge then becomes, if you have leaders who aren't necessarily very risk-taking and who aren't very bold, then that culture permeates through the rest of the organization. Whether it be if it permeates from the vice chancellor, then it goes down till the faculty, and then that's what the students are being taught, right? The students look up to their faculty members, and if faculty members are risk averse and faculty members are not dealing with the crisis effectively, then that's what they learn. So I don't think there's any quick fix solution for this. I think we just have to be at it. And I take it very seriously, what kind of values that Geetam stands by, and how do we practice? Are we in integrity? Do we walk the talk? Or do we say a lot of good things and do we end up not doing them? And COVID has been a great time to test that theory, because there were some very real challenges. We didn't have admissions for a long time, and that's our largest source of revenue. Will we have enough money to pay salaries of faculty members and staff? And in this time when there is a crisis, do we invest more into digital, or do we wait to tide over COVID And Coursera isn't cheap, right? If I have to take Coursera for 20,000 students, it is an expense that we have to be prepared for. And for me to convince academic leaders that this is an investment that is worth it is not an easy discussion, because they're like, things are not good. Why should we spend so much money on Coursera? Why can't we just wait for COVID to go away and then we can decide after that? Right. So in crisis, I think the approach that I take is that the only way we can go is forward. Because everything else is moving so fast that staying idle means you're falling behind, and that's what we want to inculcate in our students. That you need to be bold, you need to be measured. I'm not saying that you need to leap blindly, but you need to be measured. You need to evaluate the data and variables that are around you, but realize that the world that we're going into is something that none of us know. So it does come with large leaps of faith. And you do have to take big steps, and only those people are the ones who are going to define the future of this world.
And I'd love to add a quick comment to that question as well, if I may.
Please do.
And I think the question, I fully agree with the point, right, that leadership skills need to be built in students, especially in a post-COVID world. At Coursera, we think about leaders and managers as two different things. You may be managing a team of people, you may be managing a business, but everybody is a leader. And or everybody should aspire to be a leader. And then within leadership, are you thinking about people leadership or thought leadership? So we built out the Coursera leadership framework. We say leaders should be thinking about 4 buckets, right? There's steer, organize, combine, and evolve. So if you're a leader as a part of steer, you should be thinking strategy, you should be thinking decision-making, you should be doing planning. But as a part of organize, you need to be thinking about culture, you need to be thinking about change management. As a part of combine, you should be thinking about people development and collaboration. And then finally, as a part of evolve, you need to be thinking about emotional intelligence, problem solving, adaptability, and so on. There is content which is available, which delivers the knowledge for some of these skills. And I do think the practice needs to happen in a physical environment. So like what Dr. Atul said, that you need to be meeting in classes, on campuses, and going through exercises which help you develop these skills. But I do think that, if we were to double click on leadership and say, managers and leaders are 2 different skills, and then within that, what is the leadership framework that one is aspiring to do? How does that one then deliver a combination of knowledge and also the ability to apply that knowledge in a physical environment?
Great, thank you. I guess to finish off, we'll sort of reflect on one question that got sent in, which was saying, apart from job-related skills, what soft skills should be developed to make an effective worker? And we sort of touched on that a few points throughout the discussion. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you think is the most important soft skills that we can be teaching students to prepare them for Industry 4.0. Who would like to start off? Should we go with you, Dr. Atul?
Yes, I think, the most important skills for anyone in this society at the moment with the fast change is to develop a passion for learning within themselves and to be ready to learn continuously throughout their lives. Also, the compassion for taking care of society, to be able to communicate. I mean, this is something which good universities really focus on tremendously. But I always feel that young people need to be emotionally stable. And what we are seeing also at this point with the younger generation is the attention span is becoming shorter and shorter. What is happening with social media, we see with these online videos. Now you have these short videos that people watch for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. We have seen, we have experimented with tens of thousands of our students who are online learners to measure what is the attention span of someone who is learning. And we came to the conclusion that online people can only focus for 7 minutes at a given point of time. And we have adapted our online education to work in buckets of 7 minutes with evaluation. So the younger generation needs to have a greater focus and an ability to work in a concentrated manner. So this is what all universities really are working on for the future.
Thank you so much. And unfortunately, I can just see that our time is just about to run out, so I'm not going to be able to get around everyone else. But I think that's a really great place to finish on. And we've had some excellent insights from everybody. So I just want to say thank you so much to the whole panel for some really interesting points and for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Thank you, Raghav. Good seeing you.